All right, welcome back into another One Piece card game video, and we're going to continue the revisiting series of OP05, and today we're going to go through Red Purple Law. Now, if you haven't checked out my 3 captains videos, I already talked about this before, go check those out, link in the description or at the top left. Or right, I guess, for you. And while you're there clicking on things, definitely subscribe. A bunch of you keep clicking on these videos, but don't subscribe. I guess you like me, but don't like me? Anyway, Red Purple Law has been kind of finicky. You know, when it came, or first came out in the US or like the global release, you know, the 3 captains, not so much on the Asia and worldwide. You know, I feel like there was a little bit of hype around him, and that kind of reflects in the viewership of my first video, or one of the first videos about him. And I think the reason for that is because, one, Law is really cool. The red-green Law was super cool. It took a really good pilot to be good with him, and it's kind of the same thing for this leader as well. See, that hasn't really changed in OP05. I talk about that in the other video, but at the end of the day, I think or I should better say where Red Purple Law is right now is sort of like a gatekeeper. Like both the Red Purple Luffy and as well as the Red Purple Law, both of them kind of do the same thing when it comes down to the meta. In my opinion, I think they are basically, like, if you can beat them consistently, that means you are probably a tier 1 deck, and they are more likely on the tier 1.5 and tier 2. Now, the reason why I say that is because both of them have pretty glaring issues. Red Purple Luffy is pretty linear, and with Sakazuki and a bunch of other like strong removal decks out there, it is, you know, sometimes you don't draw too well with Red Purple Luffy, and then you only play 1 or 2 things if they remove it, and you only have 3 life, and they swing 6k at your face, and you don't have very many cards in hand. You know, those type of things really kind of kill that deck. With Red Purple Law, it is a battle against yourself. One, it is pretty skill intensive. The amount of things that you need to do in order to gain a board, remove their board, and then not die is a lot. You have to worry about Dawn management, you have to worry about getting bodies on board, and you have to worry about Sakazuki and others just removing your lower costed bodies. Now, the second thing is that OP05 gives a few different things for Law, and presumably, of course, the 5-drop kid. He also gets the 3-costed Law that searches at the top 5 if you have less Dawn than your opponent, which more often than not you will. You also get Zorojiru, which again is going to be a really good option in order to keeping your Dawn at a good number, and you get a bunch of other stuff. But again, after testing this deck over and over and switching things back and forth, you know, I kind of landed staying with the Straw Hat stuff instead of the Whitebeard stuff and the Heart Pirate stuff, and now using the new 1-costed event card that looks at pretty much all 3 of the archetypes you can play in this deck. I think some people have a love or hate relationship with this card, but just knowing that you kind of have to draw your outs, you have to draw pretty well to be successful with Law, it is good to keep a few of those options in your deck in order to search for the things that you need to search for. Let me know if I am off base in my findings as well as my opinion of Law. I really like the leader. It is awesome. No matter what, I will have fun playing the leader and just challenging myself to gain success with it, or you get success with it. But let me know in the comments below if you feel different. Okay, this is the deck list that I've landed on. There's a couple of things that I didn't really like and sort of just kind of went back and forth on, and you know, I sort of just trimmed the fat for the stuff that, one, doesn't really search you anything, doesn't really do anything for you as far as to progress the game and to be aggressive. And really the whole point of this deck is to gain a lot of bodies on board, remove the bodies on your opponent's area, and also keep the pressure up no matter what. And the downside of this and that game plan is that sometimes you just gas out, right? And you know, I like this deck list where it does have the options of where you want to be in a given curve, right? So if you're going first, sometimes you can play a Gordon out if you know that they're not going to be able to remove it, so that way you don't have to use that Dawn later on. More often than not, you want to use when you're at C to fight pirates, or you fight pirates, whatever it's called. The 1-cost event card that looks at the top 3, gets a straw hat, kid pirates, or heart pirates to your hand, and then bottom decks the rest. Where you can now get Zoro to follow the falling turn to pay 3, swing with him, and then apply that pressure. You can also -3 and then go into your now searchable Sashimi and Penguin, which you can do with the 3-cost law. It's just, what I found was that there's too many instances where I put out the law and I don't really get any value out of it, and I have to make sure that my Dawn is where it needs to be in order to swing with it first, because there are things that, like the kid, and as well as Beppo, and as well as Zoroark, that you're gaining Dawn. So one misplay makes that card null and void. You just don't get any value out of it. The other part of that is that so many decks, from Enel to Sakazuki to Rabluchi to Blue Croc to whatever, now has like really good spot small removal, and 3 or less is really nothing when it comes down to it, right? So that's the reason why it's not in this deck, but I rather just mention it than not mention it. Anyway, this searches out Zoro, which you can play the other Zoro, or search it out the other Zoro, either one. If you want to, if you know that they can't remove this, or it's going to be a little bit of time before they can remove it, then yeah, go ahead and play the Zoro Zuru. If not, play Zoro and then swing with it. And then on 5 Dawn, then you can just use the kid -3 and then play out any of your 4 costs, which, this hasn't really changed, right? I like Brook in the way of, if you're going against Zoro, or if you're going against the mirror, or if you're going against literally anything, this can kind of put you in a place where you can swing with this -2k for 2 different things, and then use your lower costed, not so big bodies in order to swing into them. It makes a lot easier to use your minimal Dawn in order to swing into those bodies that are now -2k. I think 4 is fine. You really kind of want to see it. Gamma Knife is sort of the other part of it, where, Gordon and Gamma Knife are your 2 main removal options. Sure, we have this, the Law to -2k. Sure, we have the Brook. Sure, we have Beppo. But those are quite big commitments. And what you really need is lower commitments that gets you immediate results in this deck. And you have to be patient in the way of, building out your Dawn and then start doing that. But you have to be efficient and using that Dawn, and these 2 really do that for you. This gets rid of anything 6k or less, and this gets rid of anything 8k or less, which, again, anything yellow, anything black, anything purple, even most things like Magellan as well as Queen, these are kind of the targets for that. So just save those for those. A couple other newer additions is the Beppo, which I think this is a promo, not so much of an OP05, but I've liked it because it is a searchable 2k at this point. It has the Heart Pirates type, and it is nice. Even if you are in a pinch, you can still use the when attacking ability, use Looter effect, and then when you can swing with it, use the when attacking ability to get rid of like a smaller blocker. Like if you're going against Red Green Law, then yeah, sure, this is going to be one of the best cards for that. And then the rest, are pretty much the same, right? Nothing has really changed about the deck. It just got really good, solid support in these 2 cards, right? Along with Zoroark. And, Law is still really good to keep your opponent's hand size down. What really happens with Law is that because they know that it exists, they are going to keep under 7 cards, like no matter what. And if you are aggressive enough, you are still going to have them at 7 cards or more. So that is just something to keep in mind. But yeah, just overall, this deck list really focuses on making sure that you get as many bodies on board early as possible, more than that they can handle, and also have the options to minus their cards in order to bottom deck them or KO them or whatever. Oh, and we have 2 Radical Beam. I used to play 3 or 4 of these, but I was like, it doesn't really matter. I think 1 or 2 is perfectly fine. It is still searchable. Guard Point's still pretty good, but because you are going to be taking the first 2 hits anyway, like I suggest that you just kind of sit there, swing as early as possible, as hard as possible, and then just build up your Dawn. So that way you're not really starving yourself for Dawn, and also make sure that you have the 5-drop before you start minusing. And if you do, then you still have Beppo, you still have Sashi and Penguin. However, you know, you want to take those 2 hits and make sure, like, even if you're swinging with this, just let it go. Just get that 5k swing, let it go. If you think you can protect it, then go ahead and do that. But that's one thing to keep in mind as well. All right, I blabbed enough about the deck. Let me know what you think about this, if there should be additions or minuses or whatever, and we'll take a look at some gameplay. So we are going to start out with Miss Bello Betty. I'm a Betty apologist. So I played her quite a lot, like recreationally and just randomly and just for fun. Obviously, I came out with a video as well of the breakdown of my list and all other stuff. But, you know, there's a lot of apologists out there. I'm one of them. So I'm pretty familiar of what she wants to do and what to avoid, that type of thing. And we have a couple choices here. We both started out with our 1-costed cards. Her 1 cost to search for something, and I think they did get something there. I got the Zoro, which I did play for 3, or I did play out mine for 3, and then I -3 in order to get rid of their 1-drop into a Sachin Penguin and go back to 3, or 2, I mean. So basically I'm going to be off curve. Well, not off curve, but going second curve. And I took first away from them because I think they want to go first in order to start putting out the 1-drop and putting out whatever it may be. And I guess there's an argument to going second too, because there's a lot of 4-drops like Ivankov and things like that. But I can kind of watch out for that, because now I have Trafalgar Law in my hand and a couple of the things. And hey, there you go. We have the 4-drop Ivankov now. In which he's going to play, I guess, to pitch and play out Inazuma through its effect. So this isn't too much of a concern here, especially drawing this Beppo, because now I can swing pretty much all over the place. I can swing 5 here, replace itself with Zoro as well. And then I can play out Law for 4, and minus the Ivankov, bottom deck him, and then play out the Beppo to recover 1 more Dawn. And I think I should have done that. I think I should have swung. But I think what the process is here is that a couple of things. One, I wanted to swing with leader first in case there's anything in life that affects any of my character cards on board, right? And the other thing is that if they play out something, then I can now use Trafalgar Law to target that. But usually the 4-cost Ivankov is probably going to be the best bet anyway. So, I mean, I think it was fine just to do that. So they're putting 2 Dawn underneath the Inazuma, which I don't really agree with. I think you should have swung with leader and just kept it as that. I think you need to lean on the chicken game where none of us swing, and we just kind of use our life as a resource here. So what we're going to do here is swing with Zoro Juru, get the extra Dawn, go to 5, play the kid, -3, get rid of the Kuma, or the Koala, and then play out our Brook and kind of decide here if we want to keep aggression up, which I think we do. You know, even if they do get a couple of triggers here, there's going to be less cards out of their hand, and we have so many bodies on board, they either have to think about swinging at my bodies, which is not really going to do anything, and since they're going to 0 or 1, then my 3 attacks, potentially 4 with my Zoro in hand, is just going to close out the game. So this Sanji is really not going to do anything. They should know that, especially since I'm holding the Gordon. So we're probably just going to be swinging out from here, and then probably just swing over the blockers. And obviously, like I said, we have the Gordon, so it's not that big of a deal if they block 1. So I think they're just thinking here, and you know, like I said, oh, I think they just rage quit. Never mind. So GG there. I thought this went on a little longer. This was a while back. So I think, you know, in general, as long as you control the board and you just swing in the right way, as in taking your time and understanding what triggers may be coming out of their life and then dealing with them, I think you should be okay. I think also there's probably an argument here to include just a tad bit more removal. You know, we got the Brook out, we got the Law out, we have a bunch of bodies to swing with, so Brook has that support in case they swing into us. So, you know, we only had 2k in hand, so, you know, they swung into our bodies, can't really do too much in general. But we do at least have the kid as well. So again, a little more argument there for some more removal, like spot removal. I just don't think there's really anything that really works with this deck in red or purple that is on the lower end and that is Dawn efficient. So going wide, going like full on attack mode and removing where you can is probably the best bet to go with. All right, next up is gonna be Sakazuki. They went to go second. This match, if I remember correctly, was actually really good. This is a pretty technical match, I would say. You know, the Sakazuki player really needs to make sure that they have everything they need in order to control my board and to mitigate some of these attacks. Now, a couple things here is one, he made the mistake of going to 7. I was very tempted to minus and then go into my law, but because we have not that much Dawn, we only have 5 or 6, right? It is pretty detrimental to keep that Dawn up. Also, he probably should have swung at my Zoro, but I think he just did this because he had the Sasuru and went ahead and went into Raw Bluchi. So no doubt about that. What we're doing here is using 2 Dawn to swing with 7, use 1 for the Gordon, bottom deck him into minusing 3 the Raw Bluchi, and then playing out our Luffy and Zoro. So what he did is play Red Rock into our other to remove both. One thing I did miss here was bottom decking the Sasuru, which is fine. You know, it's not that big of a deal, but you know, it might be kind of a big deal later on. I don't forget it this time. So we have 3 blockers, one of them being a 7k swing here, which I'm okay with losing one of these. He gets another Red Rock and not really drawing too well. And I think that ended up being GG. I know that one went pretty quickly. You know, this kind of match in law in general, it goes pretty quickly in my opinion. I think that's just how it is with this deck anyway. So if you're looking for a slow, methodical deck, this isn't really it for you. But what happened here was that I just aggressed a little bit more. If we go back a little bit, I aggressed a little bit more than what I think he expected, because he tapped out for not only Red Rock, but also Borsalino, right? So like he probably thought that I was just gonna keep these blockers up and then just, you know, do that, right? Unless he just didn't have anything else in hand. Those 2 Red Rocks were really, really costly. So I don't think it was probably like 1 or 2 of, probably 2 of in his deck that he just ended up drawing. So because of that, you know, we have to kind of make sure we take advantage of that, right? We just swing with our blockers. There's no big deal about it, where we just swing with our blockers, swing 7, and we're still at 2 life, and he just really couldn't keep up with the pressure that we're putting on. So that is it. Yeah, hopefully that is a little enlightening for some of the Sakazuki matchups, even though I think it is 60-40 for Sakazuki. All right, next up is gonna be Luffy, red purple Luffy. He is actually also an interesting matchup. You know, there are a lot of things that deter Luffy from law. Like if they put out a lot of these 9-drop Whitebeards and the kid, if they put out multiple of those, excuse me, it's pretty difficult pretty difficult to get around those things. And I'm surprised he actually didn't go 7 here, but it is what it is. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that. I wanted to get out the kid as quickly as possible. I wasn't really too concerned about his Zoro. I could have played my own as well. But the thing is that, you know, Brook is a 6k swing pretty much anytime that I need him to be, right? So I think what we're gonna do, yeah, oh, this is even better. So him playing a queen just makes it a little bit better, where Brook can just make him a 4k, and just it is not that menacing or as helpful. I think it's just swinging here for the ramp, which is fine. I take it because I have a Radical Beam in hand. We're not really too afraid of our him playing a law, but we do have our own in our hand. So if we can get it out after this swing, that would be great. But the cool thing about law is that knowing that he does exist makes people play as if they need to discard those 2 cards anyway. So if I swing 7 or if I swing 7 or 8 on him, he's still gonna discard those 2 cards anyway. So it works out. So we did play the law, 2 cards, 1 card out of that after that, and then 2 cards after this. I still haven't used my leader effect, which I think he probably forgot, because he ended up protecting that law, or that Zoro. So because he did that, he just went -4 out of his hand that turn. I mean -5. I may have miscounted one because it's going so quickly. My bad. But yeah, that was just too many cards out of hand. And one of the things that you need to really have are cards in hand in Luffy. And obviously you make it difficult when it comes down to playing Red Purple Law, right? And that's kind of your whole thing. You got to make sure that these things are difficult for your opponent, and all this pressure is difficult for your opponent. And as he concedes and rage quits, he went ahead and showed the 2 Luffy in hand, and then the 9-cost Whitebeard in life. So not getting to the Whitebeards, and pretty much me playing 5 bodies up to that point, because he is at 9 Dawn, you see here, right? So I played 5 bodies that actually swung pretty much every single turn. These last 2 bodies are probably swinging next turn as well. So because of that, that is one of the things that makes this deck so potent. However, if you don't get to that point, or if they play a lot of removal, or if they play these 9 drops, or these kids that prevent these multiple swings from going through, then you're kind of shit out of luck, right? Like it's just very difficult for you to get over another deck. So keep those things in mind. Hopefully my babbling and some of this gameplay as a sample will help you in building the deck and as well as playing it. And if it did, definitely subscribe, like, dislike, whatever you want to do. And I'll see you in the next one. Later.